I have top secret information. Or at the very least, top secret information for the One Piece world at this point in time. In regards to the Lulusia Kingdom, which thankfully was just brought up by Vegapunk during his, broadcast. So that's helpful. That makes it a little more recent for me to talk about. And we'll be getting to some of that information in the anime, or we just got to it, depending on how this lands when it goes up. But that means that now it's time to talk about the Lulusia Kingdom. And, I mean, by a technicality, compared to, Alabasta and Wano and Dressrosa and stuff like that, we don't know a huge amount about it, but we know enough. We know enough about it. And it's enough of information about it that I decided to give it its own video in this series. For the little Miscellaneous Kingdom section. And the next one after this one is going to be about the Prudence Kingdom with King Elizabeth II to kind of finish it off on a more friendly note. So in regards to the Lulusia Kingdom, in regards to what it used to be at the very least before it was a giant crater in the ground, in the ocean, just sitting there. The Lulusia Kingdom was related with was affiliated with the world government, and it is located in Paradise. And given the way that things ended up going, it seems that it probably wasn't exceedingly far away from Kamabaka Island, from Kamabaka Kingdom, simply just because of the fact of Sabo was able to get there rather easily shortly after everything happens with Lulusia. So it may not be super far away, but it's enough of a distance. So the two rulers that we know about when it came to the Lulusia Kingdom was King Seki, who was obviously the king of the Lulusia Kingdom, and he was one of the 50 monarchs that was at this past reverie. And his daughter, Kome, was the princess of Lulusia Kingdom. They were both deposed shortly before everything happened with the sky weapon, probably Uranus, being fired at them as it was powered by the Mother Flame. So there's that. Again, we don't know that much about the kingdom, but just in regards to what we do know about the kingdom and the history of the kingdom itself, the little bits that we know of, and then the more current events. So we know that 4 years ago, the kingdom was ravaged by pirates, but with the aid of Admiral Akainu, so that's where he comes in, the pirates were captured and sent to Impel Down, saving the kingdom from destruction. I mean, as much as we don't like Akainu for obvious reasons, ace-shaped reasons, who will come up in this video, for ace-shaped reasons, he was probably just doing his job to protect the citizens of Lulusia. We also know that at some point in time, the world government ended up becoming affiliated with them, obviously, as in they were able to pay the celestial tribute, which we know is a very high amount, and is probably the majority of what they're able to make as part of their GDP. And we know that they have a marine base near them, that is Marine Base G2. And that was established nearby because that's part of Aisha's cover story, which... Would you like to add in your 2 cents? Your 2 biscuits? I don't know. I'm a dog. I'm cute. Yes, you are very cute, Brenda. See? You can see the cute puppy. Vision of the cute puppy who is a good girl. Hit me, mommy. Yeah. But, speaking of Akainu, going to Ace, the majority of what we see of this prior to the time skip is Ace's Great Blackbeard Search, where Ace ends up on Lulusia in his attempt to try to find information about Blackbeard while he's, after he's met up with Luffy and the others at Alabasta and had like his little reunion with Luffy, and then he heads off on his own again. And he's trying to find information about Blackbeard's location so that way he can, take out Blackbeard for what happened to Thatch. And so basically what ends up happening is Ace has his adventure throughout this where he doesn't pay for his meal. Then he ends up trying to go after a doctor who looks like Blackbeard, but he's not. It's like Korotsuru is his name or whatever, he looks like Blackbeard, but he's not. And then he ends, after the Dine and Dash, then he ends up getting thrown by the citizens into the river, and then he floats down the river. I guess it's a shallow enough river that he wasn't going to drown, or he landed on something that helped him float, because devil fruit user, and fire, so he's like Crocodile, double weak to water. And he floated down the river where he ends up being rescued by Moda, who is this, young girl who is like this little milk maiden. And she, kind of helps him and, gives him milk. And, he's like, okay, yay. And I'm going to go to the Marine base. And she's like, hey, if you're going to go to the Marine base, can you deliver this letter for me? And he's like, sure, I'll help you, small child who was kind to me. And he goes to the Marine base and he has this whole little adventure in the Marine base, which basically the end result of that is that he gets the information about where Blackbeard is, which what leads him to Bonaro Island, but then he also ends up saving the life of a Marine who was on a ship that was on fire, and he saved him. And then he delivered the letter to it's Vice Admiral Comiel, delivers the letter to him, and the letter is just like, hey, if your coffee tastes bad, why don't you come and get milk from our farm? And then it's Moda's parents work at the Marine base. And so they're like, hey, let's go get milk from this, farm, and we can have cream for our coffee. And then they get cream for their coffee, and it's better. And Moda gets to see her parents. So it's like, that's kind of what we get there. And then, Ace leaves and heads off to go get Blackbeard. And then we don't hear anything else about Lulusia. Even during the time frame when, you're reading that as a cover story, you don't know that that's Lulusia. We don't find that out until after the time skip, when they're getting ready for the Reverie arc. We don't find out that it's Lulusia until then. So what then happens is, of course, during the time skip, the kingdom, of course, ends up having to, since they have to pay their celestial tribute to, heavenly tribute to the celestial dragons, basically what ends up happening is, I guess, Seki and Komain, Seki decides that he wants to up the amount of taxes that his citizens must pay. And he does just that, which is just puts even more burden on his citizens without any care of his own, as in he does not care about his citizens, and it just makes them fall into poverty. Their port city at the very least seems to fall into poverty, and then we get into the Reverie arc where we are a little more introduced to the Lulusia kingdom, and so there's two things that happen during this time frame. The first one is, this is where we are more introduced a little bit more to Seki and Komiel. So they head off to the Reverie because Seki is one of the members of the Reverie Council, and he's going to be there as one of the 50 kings and one of the 50 monarchs, and he's bringing his daughter. And while on their way there, their ship ends up getting attacked by pirates, because of course, and Komain ends up getting captured by the pirates, and she's being held for ransom. While this is also happening, the pirates decide that they are going to try to kidnap Princess Viola from the Prudence Kingdom / Dressrosa ship that is on their way there. And they're like, let's try to kidnap them. Which, I mean, first of all, that kind of is like a weird way of making this work, because the Lulusia kingdom is on the paradise side of the red line, and the Dressrosa kingdom is on the other side, on the New World side. So it's like these are on two different sides of it. So it's just like these are some very adept pirates if they're able to capture one princess from one side and then go under and then get to the other side already to try to capture the other. But they're coming from the Prodence Kingdom as well, so I don't remember where the Prodence Kingdom is off the top of my head. I don't remember which blue it's in, or if it's in the New World as well. I don't remember off the top of my head. That's the next video. But basically what ends up happening is Helmeppo and Kobe save the day, which is nice. Kobe saves the Dressrosa / Prodence, envoy ship from being attacked by a missile, and that results in like Kobe meeting Rebecca and everything like that. And then we have that Helmeppo is actually the one that got aboard like the submarine that the pirates were using, which is another evidentiary thing of pirates using submarines like Law's crew was known to do. So either they took the idea from Law and ran with it, which was, hey, if it's a good idea, take it and run with it. But in this case, it's just like, I don't know, but they had a submarine. And they're like, okay, let's try to capture them. And then Helmeppo and the other Marines get aboard. And, like, Comaine is just, like, crying. And, I think they insult it, I think the pirate insults Comaine, like, saying she's not as pretty as, like, Viola is or something like that. Which, I mean, like, okay, just, rudeness is not required here. You already have her kidnapped. You don't have to be rude to her as well, in this case. That's not going to help your argument later, when you're trying to ransom her. So basically what happens is, of course, Helmeppo is the one that ends up saving her and her from being kidnapped, or from where she's being held. And then she just, like, kicks the pirates, which is funny. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I agree with that. While that's happening, while they are on their way to the Reverie, back at their kingdom, back at Lulusia, Peachbeard has decided to attack, and he attacks their port city in the name of Blackbeard, because he works for Blackbeard, I guess. And, the townspeople are begging him to stop, and they're like, you please stop. It's just like, we're already a poor town. We don't have much. Most of what we earn goes to the Celestial Dragon's gold for the heavenly tribute. We don't have any money. And this is where we see Moda again, and where it is revealed that this is where Ace's cover story took place. And so there's like that revelation going on there. Revolution also would have been a key term, because this is where the Revolutionary Army shows up, because Peachbeard is about to attack Moda, and that's when Bello Betty and the other commanders of the Revolutionary Army show up, and we're introduced to Bello Betty and Morley and Karasu and Lindbergh. And what ends up happening is, of course, Bella Betty uses her pump fruit powers to like pump the citizens up and get them, raring to go, and they fight off the pirates. And that includes Moda picking up a board and whacking Peachbeard with it, which I love. It's like, go Moda. And, from there, Bella Betty basically like talks to the citizen, and they're like, hey, if you guys ever want help to get out of this situation, here's the number for the Revolutionary Army. Give us a call if you want help, or if you would like support in this matter. And they give them that information. And then the commanders leave, and they head to Kamabaka Kingdom, because that's the next place we see them, and they're on their way there. So again, setting up that the Lulusia Kingdom isn't super far away from the Kamabaka Kingdom in regards to, distance. Then again, it's the Grand Line, so navigation is a little bit wonky here and there, but, the commanders probably all have a Viva card for, like, Dragon and Ivankov and stuff like that, so they're able to, like, get their way to the island safely. So there's that. And the next thing that we get to see a little bit is we see Seki and Comaine at the Reverie. They get like this nice little introduction thing when they arrive. I don't think we see them in the socializing plaza, but assumedly they are there, where they would get to speak with a bunch of the other kings and queens and, princes and princesses and whatever of other kingdoms. Like we see, Vivi and Rebecca and Viola and Dalton and stuff, them all doing, and Shirahoshi, like them all talking together. Now, we never saw Komain interact with Vivi or Rebecca or Shirahoshi or anything like that. So she may have been off with her own group that she knew. But for the most part, we don't see her during, the reverie. We do see her father, though. And he is, of course, at the reverie itself, at the round table during that discussion. And we see him talking with it's Queen Lemon Cheese of the Best Land Kingdom, who I spoke about a little bit in the last video. And then King Patafu, who I don't remember what kingdom he was from off the top of my head. I just remember Lemon Cheese because it was a funny name. And it's Best Land Kingdom. And I'm like, that's a high thing. That's the high bar to try to get there, isn't it, lady? But so like they're talking, like they're discussing what like the events that have been occurring in Wano with Luffy and with the Straw Hats all being there, and like what had just happened at Whole Cake and everything like that. So that's like the discussion that's going on there before the meeting happens. I think we get some shots of Seki during like when Cobra and Riku were talking about like abolishing the warlord system, and see some bits there and see him a little bit like I don't know if we see him when everything is revealed that that like Cobra and Wapol won't be attending this part of the meeting type of a thing. I don't remember if we see Seki, but the anime hasn't quite hit that episode yet, but that'll be coming up very shortly. And then we get to post-reverie, where they have returned to their kingdom. So basically what ends up happening is that the Revolutionary Army has attacked Marie Joie. Sabo has destroyed the mark, the hoof of the dragon statue, blown that to smithereens, which of course empowers a ton of these, oppressed citizens all over the world, including in Lulusia. And what ends up happening is that when Komain and Seki return from Reverie, they are basically captured and basically locked away in their own kingdom. And, Lulusia is one of the kingdoms that is part of this, 8-nation rebellion that is happening all over the world. I went through a couple of the other ones in the other video. I think the Tanjin kingdom was one of them, and Aegeus kingdom, I think. Aegeus kingdom, I think, was one of the other ones. I don't remember what the other ones were off the top of my head. I would find it hilarious if Wapol's kingdom was one of them. If the evil Black Drum kingdom was one of the ones that is in rebellion now, because it's just okay, we're tired of this guy. All he does is eat and make metal. We can make him do that even if he's not king. Plus he's an a-hole. So it's just so that, I don't know, maybe it is the evil Black Drum kingdom, and Cinderella went home, and after Wapol left her, and blah 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 blah, and maybe she's now she's in prison. But we see that Komain and Seki end up getting thrown in prison, and they are just deposed from their roles as king and queen. We also know that the Lulusia ship is actually the ship that had Sabo on it, after he had his encounter with Im and the Gorosei when he tried to save Cobra. And he ended up being injured, and he ended up on the island after the ship arrived there. And, so he's probably, taken in by the citizens, because, they probably recognize him as A, because of the information that came out about Cobra, B, the fact that he's, a member of the Revolutionary Army. So they're like, hey, can you help us, is probably what happened. And so Komain and Seki are deposed and then locked away. Sabo helps the citizens in this regard. And basically what ends up happening is the island gets turned into a test project, or a target practice, unfortunately. And basically what ends up happening is Eam has had this conversation with the Gorosei where he wants to have the Lulusia kingdom eliminated. And basically they kind of ask him, like, why that kingdom specifically, because it's like, okay, so far they've been pretty loyal to the world government. And Eam just decides its proximity is the reason why it needs to be gotten rid of. It's like, it's close enough, and it's close enough that we can get our weapon there quickly enough to test it and then get it away quickly enough so people aren't going to know what happened. And we can return it to wherever they've been hiding it, probably somewhere in the red line. Or on top of the red line a little ways down from Marijois, depending on certain things. And, so that's basically what ends up happening is that they send what is Aranos, essentially, that is being fueled by the Mother Flame, send it over to Lulusia. And the anime did such a great job with animating this, with like just the tension and the just like, oh my god, with how they animated this part of the episode. And so there's like two things that are happening concurrently at the same time. Sabo is on his way on one of the ships that they took from the Lulusia Kingdom with a bunch of the citizens of the Lulusia Kingdom, including Moda, on the ship. And they are on their way away from Lulusia. And Sabo is basically routing a call on his Denden Mushi through Lulusia and then sending it to the Revolutionary Army on Kamabaka, in the Kamabaka Kingdom. So that way he can talk to Dragon. And of course, this is like the scene that we saw recently in the anime where it's just like, no, I didn't kill Cobra, and, I'll explain and blah, blah, blah. And then everything gets, interrupted because Sabo and the others that are on the ship look behind them and they just see like this huge shadow in the clouds appear above their island, and then just... I don't know how this would work, because it's not like there would be an earthquake that would be able to, like, oh my god, something's happening, there's an earthquake. It would be just sky lasers coming down from the sky. And that's what happens. And we see that in the episode. And basically that's what happens in the manga, is we just see these just lasers coming down from the sky, and just no more Lulusia Kingdom. It is gone. And in the anime, they kind of draw this out a little bit, which is understandable. It's, it kind of evokes the image of an Independence Day when all the buildings are getting blown up and the White House gets blown up. It's just like that type of thing where it's like, yes, make it slow motion because it looks cool, but it's still just horrific as to what is going on here. And so it is like that type of a thing where it's just like gone. And Sabo and all the other, and Moda and the other members and the other citizens of Lulusia that were going to go with Sabo to join the Revolution Army are like looking back at this, and they're just like, their home is gone. Their island is just nothing anymore. There is this giant freaking hole in the ocean, depending on how much they can see of it. It's just gone. And like, I hope I never have to understand fully how that would feel, because that would be horrible and just, oh my god. But just to have that happen. And like, they're just like, oh my god. And like, while this is going on, they're, Sabo is on the snail with Dragon, and he's about to say something. And then of course, this is when, they turn off, the world government stops wiretapping it, and that gets destroyed because he was routing the call through Lulusia. So the call ends, and it's just, there's now this just giant sea crater in the sea where Lulusia had once been. And of course, Eam is just like, the girls are like, what will we tell anyone about the Lulusia Kingdom? And Eam's just like, marking off on the map, there never was a Lulusia kingdom. And it's just like, oh boy. So it's kind of like that concept of like, there was this kingdom. The king of the kingdom was just at Reverie. And does that mean they're going to just go through and basically just like eliminate everything about the Lulusia kingdom from anything that was there? There's kings and queens. There's 40 something other kings and queens, and plus however many other royals in attendance who interacted with Seki and with Komain and with other members that were probably part of their delegation that were their guards that just interacted with them. They were just talked about in the paper because of the Seven Nation Rebellion. So there's a lot of that information around there already. So it's just like, you can't just say this island doesn't exist anymore, never existed in the first place. You could say it doesn't exist anymore, but you can't say that it never existed in the first place. There's too much of this other information out there. And Morgan's isn't going to allow that to just go poof into nothing. And so what ends up happening is, of course, Sabo and the Moda and the others manage to get to Kamabaka and everything, where they enlist in the Revolutionary Army, and this is part of like the post-destruction, kind of the legacy of the Lulusia Kingdom. So maybe in the future when we see the Revolutionary Army again, maybe Moda will be part of the fighting forces. I don't know. Maybe she'll end up becoming a new leader in the Revolutionary Army. Maybe she'll become the new queen of the future Lulusia Kingdom 2.0. I don't know. That would be kind of fun for Moda. I would appreciate that for her. She's been through enough. Most likely her parents are dead, though. Unless they happen to have been on the boat with her. But there's the other thing of that, is that her parents may have still been at the Marine base, because the Marine base was not destroyed, because the Marine base was not on Lulusia itself. G2 was not on Lulusia. It was in another area a little ways away from Lulusia. So in that case, it's like, there's this whole Marine base that's right next to Lulusia. So how are they not going to notice that Lulusia is just poof, gone? They will notice. They will see that this is not a good thing, that this is gone. And so there's that part going on there. And, what just happened in the story is that, of course, there was the giant earthquakes that happened. There were like the sea levels rising, different islands that were getting flooded because of everything that was happening, tsunamis that happened because of the shift in the ocean and in the crust of the planet, shifted because of what the sky laser just did. And that would be a much easier thing to be able to hide if there wasn't like mass communication networks set up all over the world in regard to the Denden Mushi, or even mass information, be able to spread that information because of Morgan's and the World Economic Journal or whatever. That information is still able to be sent out. So it's not like it's just like, oh, it's fine, that never existed. It's just like, no, there's lots of evidence that it existed. And, like, Akainu, who is the current freaking fleet admiral, 4 years ago, he was in Lulusia Kingdom. He helped protect the kingdom from pirates. Now, given that it's Akainu, it's like, whether or not the pirates were 100% as bad as, most would be led to believe. They may not have been, like, the same level of pirates as, like, Luffy and the others, with, like, them actually being good, but maybe they weren't as bad as, like, Blackbeard or something. They might have been somewhere in the middle, but still, it's like, he'll know that Lulusia used to exist, so it's not like he's going to forget about it, and he's going to be like, yeah, no, that's not good, because I don't know if we've seen his full reaction to this, but then also, it's just like, the Gorosei say that it doesn't exist, so you got to listen to the Gorosei if you're the fleet admiral type of a thing. But the other thing is that, of course, part of the legacy that is now associated with Lulusia is, of course, Vegapunk's message, because he talks about in the message how, this happened, how this, these earthquakes happened, how these, what are you doing? Here, I'm sniffing the bed. Here, you want a cute dog? There's a cute dog. There's a cute puppy. There's a cute dog. There's my cute little baby. You're so cute, I love you. Here, you want a closer look at the baby? Here, I'll give you a closer look at the baby. There we go. See the baby. Brenda. Pretty girl. See, pretty girl. You get a cute little dog intermission right at the end of the video. Okay? Hi, baby. I love you. I'm almost done. And then we can snuggle while I edit. You're a good girl. I love you. Can I have a kiss? My Brenda. Mine. So there is the, the Lucia's kind of legacy is Vegapunk being able to have this evidence to tell to the world something that it's much harder for them to all just ignore, with the sea levels going up, with the earthquakes that happened, with everything along those lines. And that's able to help him, deliver that message better. So there's that. And, he's able to use that in his warning to the world about what's going on with, like, the Mother Flame and with, the ancient weapon and everything like that. So it doesn't mean that it's a good thing that Lulusia got destroyed, but it's like there's some, something that Vegapunk is able to use to help with, getting that information out. So, in regards to a little bit of trivia about this, so when Lulusia was kind of first introduced, before we got some of this information, there was, like, some conflicting information as to, like, its location, simply because of the fact of, like, was it in the Grand, it was in the Grand Line, but was it on the Paradise side or was it on the New World side? So there was, like, different conflicting information about that, and, like, conflicting information in the volumes and everything like that, but it all got smoothed out eventually. And then, of course, the crater in the sea crater that is now there is very reminiscent of what happened at, or what appears to have happened at Ennis Lobby. And then, of course, in regards to Seki and Komain, they are inspired by Romania and, the, aesthetics of vampires. So, Seki even has, like, little vampire fangs. So it's just like he's supposed to be very similar to, Count Dracula and Vlad the Impaler, that type of a thing, where it is supposed to be, like, these references there. And there's even a thing where it's just like they both, Seki and Komain both, have it where they express desire to have their enemies skewered and impaled, like Vlad the Impaler. Also, there is this thing where it's just like when we see Seki and Komain in the prison cells after they've been, captured and deposed, the citizens are just like, if you just treat us better, we'll let you out of here. If you just basically sign these documents that state that you will treat us better, or I guess we have the right to throw you back in prison, then we will let you out of here. But, Seki refuses to do that, and Komain and Seki are just yelling at them. And they're all most likely dead. So, yeah. All of them. All dead. Which is sad, because it's like they don't get the, Seki and Komain, I mean, there's always the chance that they could have tried to do better. As in, like, they could have, like, been given this opportunity by their citizens, and they could have taken the opportunity and actually decided to do better in the world, but they didn't. They didn't take that opportunity, and they ended up dead because of it. In all honesty, they probably would have ended up dead either way, because of Giant Sky Laser, but, they definitely ended up dead. But they ended up dead without even trying to, like, be better. So that's what I have here for the Lulusia Kingdom and the royalty associated with it. The last one in this little section of the series will be about the Prudence Kingdom with King Elisabello II, as I said, and that'll be the one that'll be next. And then after that, I will be getting into Wano, where there will be a lot of videos about Wano, because there's a lot of people in Wano that are, the rulers and the leaders in some shape or form, with the Kozukis and the Kurozumis and the daimyo and even the yakuza involved there and all of that. So that'll be a lot to talk about. And those will be a lot of videos, and just the history of Wano in general is a lot. So we'll see what happens there. But that's what I have for this. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.